Police in Rome raid a migrant center in order to carry out identification checks. Angry protesters challenge Uganda's social media and mobile money taxes. And reacting to America's surprising stance on breastfeeding, doctors say breast milk, not formula, is best. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. Germany, Austria and Italy say they believe they can work together to jointly solve any problems relating to the Mediterranean routes taken by tens of thousands of migrants from Africa to Europe. After a meeting of interior ministers in Innsbruck, Austria, Thursday, German Interior Minister Horst Seehofer says he is optimistic solutions can be found to stem the flow of migrant arrivals, but the solutions had to be European and ones that guaranteed humanity. Meanwhile, police in Rome raided a migrant center on Thursday near a train station to carry out identification checks. The camp houses approximately 300 migrants who sleep in tents next to the central train station at Tiburtina. Local humanitarian groups provide food for the inhabitants. Police searched tents and checked the documents of those living at the camp and took away some 35 people who did not have appropriate documentation. Italian Interior Minister Matteo Salvini spoke about the situation.
We
will call on the international missions to avoid using Italy as the only point of entry. If we reduce these problems from the start, there will be less problems following on. I think this nucleus of friendship and serious, concrete and efficient intervention between Austria, Germany and Italy will be a nucleus that will give a positive input to the whole of Europe in order to acknowledge the right of asylum for the minority of people, women and children who are really escaping from war, and to avoid the arrival and death of other tens of thousands of people who are not escaping any war.
The migration crisis peaked with an influx of well over 1 million people in 2015. And while annual arrivals have since tumbled, EU members have feuded over how to share the burden. Well, the son of former South African President Jacob Zuma is in legal hot water again. Duduzane Zuma appeared in a Johannesburg court Thursday at a culpable homicide hearing. Duduzane Zuma initially avoided prosecution over a 2014 incident in which his Porsche sports car plowed into a minivan taxi, killing one woman and injuring another who later died in hospital. Zuma was summoned to court last week to answer 2 charges of culpable homicide against him. In Thursday's pre-trial hearing, the Randburg Magistrates Court adjourned proceedings until August 23rd. Zuma's lawyers said they hope to agree on a start date for a trial then. On Monday, Duduzane Zuma appeared at another Johannesburg court on corruption charges, which his lawyers say he will contest. He was released on bail of $7,400. Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni has approved increased security spending for 456 members of parliament. In a letter to the finance minister on Thursday, the new security measures revealed sharpshooters and armored escort vehicles for the MPs. This comes after a ruling party lawmaker was shot and killed in June. Museveni says the decision to boost security was taken after a meeting with members of parliament in which incidents of criminality and terrorism were discussed. Critics say the increased spending is wasteful and failed to address security concerns of normal citizens who fear rampant crime in a country marked by unresolved murders, waves of kidnappings for ransom, burglaries and robberies. Well, Uganda lawmakers are preparing to review its controversial taxes on social media and mobile money. The recently introduced taxes sparked protests in Kampala's Wednesday as police fired live rounds and tear gas to break up the angry crowds. Here's Alima Thumani.
Dressed in red T-shirts that read, "This tax must go," demonstrators marched Wednesday through Kampala. The activists, led by legislator Robert Chagulanyi, commonly known as Bobby Wine, brought the city centre to a standstill as they struggled with police who tried to arrest them.
We are not fighting with you.
Police fired live bullets in the air and tear gas canisters to disperse the crowd. A group known as National Citizens Action Against Unfair Taxation has demanded the government to introduce a bill to repeal the new taxes. Namirembe Angela, one of the protesters, says she thinks the money is going straight into the pockets of companies and politicians.
We are not happy about what is happening. Personally, I cannot save because that 200 shillings is a lot of money. Even the money on the social media, on the mobile money, it's a lot. I don't save anything.
Most of the protesters were young people who are more likely to use social media and mobile money apps. Mobile money agent Andrew Jemba spoke with VOA.
Businesses concerning mobile money are going down. You can't tell me that you're going to remove 1% on every amount you're sending and receiving. Because if I remove 1,000 from 1 million, it's no longer 1 million. It's less than that. If you're removing from the sender and the receiver, you're totally pressing the civilian. Ugandans can't afford this money.
Other activists have condemned the social media tax as a way for the government to curb free expression. Uganda's Prime Minister Ruhakana Rugunda addressed Parliament, saying the tax shall be reviewed.
Government is now reviewing the taxes, taking into consideration the concerns of the public and its implications on the budget.
Parliament is scheduled to debate proposed changes to the new taxes next week. Halima Athmani for VOA News, Kampala.
India has emerged as the most dangerous country in the world for women, according to a new survey by the Thomson Reuters Foundation. The survey is a repeat of a similar one conducted by the foundation in 2011, which then rated India as the fourth most dangerous country for women after Afghanistan, the Democratic Republic of Congo and Pakistan. The survey is not going over well with Indian officials. VOA's Ritul Joshi reports from New Delhi.
From India's capital of New Delhi to the country's numerous small towns and villages, millions of women may be living in danger. That's the conclusion of a recent survey by the Thomson Reuters Foundation, which found India to be the most dangerous country in the world for women. But the Indian government insists the findings, based on a survey of 548 experts across the globe, is deeply flawed.
It has been conducted in a completely wrong manner. For India, only 101 women were consulted, of which only 50 of them in the country. The rest all live out of India.
Of the survey's 6 major categories, India fared the worst in 3: sexual violence, human trafficking, and culture and religion.
In the entire South Asian region, preference for male babies is very high. Because of this, all kinds of things take place, including murders and torture.
There is also a rise in the reporting of cases. And it is very natural because of late, there is a growing awareness of law, legal provisions. Women are increasingly vocal about their rights. There is a growing sense of entitlement.
There are many countries where women are not free to speak and media is not free to report. In many countries, laws are designed to harass women. For example, Sharia laws.
Recent cases, such as the gang rape of a little girl in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, have badly damaged India's reputation. But some Indian social scientists argue that rape and sexual harassment are not exclusive to India.
Right now, we are seeing more cases from the first world countries in the media. The hashtag #MeToo campaign is an example. Sexual harassment is prevalent everywhere.
The Thomson Reuters Foundation acknowledges the poll is based only on the perceptions of experts and is not backed by hard data. But others say, instead of being angry over the survey's findings, perhaps India should take a long, hard look at why its reputation has suffered when it comes to the safety of women. Ritul Joshi, VOA News, New Delhi.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our show live on Facebook, so check us out and share our show with your friends. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince McCory. Still ahead on Africa 54, doctors react to America's refusal to endorse a UN resolution on promoting breastfeeding. But first, a look at Thursday's headlines. Health report, and joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Mudu, who's going to tell what a new health report reveals. Lino.
Thank you, Vincent. While poor quality health services are holding back progress on improving health in countries at all income levels, that's according to a new joint report by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, World Health Organization, and the World Bank. The report, Delivering Quality Health Services, a global imperative for universal health coverage, says, among other things, inaccurate diagnosis, medical error, and providers who lack adequate training and expertise prevail in all countries. The situation is worse in low and middle income countries, where 10% of hospitalized patients can expect to acquire an infection during their stay, as compared to 7% in high-income countries. However, the report notes that there has been some progress in improving quality, for example, in survival rates for cancer and cardiovascular disease. A health center in Niger is providing relief and solace to women who are suffering from obstetric fistula, a condition that often causes patients to be shunned by their communities. 23-year-old Kodi Mumdo has been receiving treatment here at the National Fistula Center. It is one of 11 fistula treatment centers in Niger. Mumdo's treatment was successful.
I was transported to a Walam Health Center. I had just felt the doctor remove the child before putting a hose on me. I was really scared at first. I spent my days and evenings crying. I did not know what it was in the beginning. When I started this illness, I did not go back home.
About 69 women are accommodated in neatly arranged wards in the hospital compound. Of those, 42 are waiting to have the operation to repair the tear to their bodies. Obstetric fistula is a hole in the birth canal caused by prolonged labor without prompt medical intervention. Women who suffer from the condition are often young with little or no access to medical care. Because of incontinence of urine and or stool, patients are often ostracized by their communities. The United Nations Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohamed visited the center recently. She met with those who suffered from fistula due to child marriage, early pregnancy, and female genital mutilation.
They're a place of sanctuary for girls that have suffered early child marriage and have ended up with horrendous fistula repairs that have to be done. Not only is it damaging to their own well-being physically and mentally, but they're also stigmatized. And within their families, their societies, they no longer have a home. So places like this are of sanctuary to get repair, of sanctuary to find a new way and a livelihood so that they can go back again whole. And I think, the people that give service here deserve all the support that they can get.
Abdoulaye Idrissa is the director of the center. He carries out about 6 operations a week. The average age of patients who he treats is 18 years old, but he frequently sees girls as young as 12 or 13 years old.
The task is difficult because you know that Niger's population is growing very rapidly, and the needs are increasing accordingly. But on our side, we really fight to have good results. The essential factors remain: poverty, illiteracy, isolation, thus the problem of access to health services. Social factors as well, the marriage a little early.
There are two sides to this, supporting that we actually put more money into the repairs and the work that the doctors do here tirelessly, and then also take up the advocacy, because we should be able to prevent and bring zero child marriage to our children in Niger and the rest of Africa.
Most obstetric fistulas can be repaired with surgery. Health experts say programs that improve nutrition, delay the age of marriage, improve family planning, and increase access to maternal and obstetric care are necessary to prevent obstetric fistula. World Health officials were stunned when the United States opposed a resolution for countries to encourage breastfeeding, especially when decades of research have shown its benefits for both mothers and babies. VOA's Carol Pearson has more.
Millions of babies around the world would thrive if they received mother's milk for the first 6 months of life or longer. The findings come from the largest and most detailed study yet on the benefits of breastfeeding. It was published in the Lancet Medical Journal 2 years ago. The study showed breastfeeding could save the lives of 800,000 babies per year. Pediatricians say while women should have options, science is clearly on the side of breastfeeding.
The science of breastfeeding has been established for several decades.
Breastfeeding improves nutrition, decreases infections, and is cheaper than formula.
We know that right after birth, when the mother puts the baby to breast, the baby gets the colostrum, the early milk that the mother produces, and it's very high in immunoglobulins that protect the baby from infection. So that milk is critically important for babies, and then continued exclusive breastfeeding continues to support those health benefits for the baby.
For women to use infant formula, clean water is a must, not just for the formula, but also to clean the bottles. The nipples and spoons used to measure the formula must also be clean. If not, the baby can get diarrhea, which can be fatal. And because formula is expensive, if a mother tries to stretch it out, the baby will not get enough to eat.
The benefits of breastfeeding are extraordinarily high to be able to protect against these illnesses.
Breastfed babies have fewer ear infections, fewer digestive problems. They grow differently. Breast milk even protects children from obesity later in life. Formulas have improved over time, with the addition of fatty acids and better quality proteins. But doctors say nothing can replace breast milk.
I appreciate that formulas continually do get better and better, but I have noticed that even our colleagues who work in the formula industry acknowledge that breast milk is the gold standard.
Breastfeeding also has clear benefits for the mother as well. For one, it reduces the chances that she will hemorrhage after giving birth. Doctors say women need to be supported by their physicians, by their families, by their communities, and by their employers in order to breastfeed their babies successfully, to give newborns the best chance at healthy lives. Carol Pearson, VOA News, Washington.
And that's our health report for today. To stay in touch, find me on Twitter at Lenore Moudou. Vincent, back to you.
Well, Lenore, thank you very much. Be sure to watch Lenore Moudou's health reports every Tuesday and Thursday right here on Africa 54. Where sharp divisions over who should pay for Europe's defense overshadowed the NATO summit in Brussels after U.S. President Donald Trump accused European allies of taking advantage of American taxpayers. The U.S. spends around 3.5% of its GDP on defense, far higher than other member states. As Henry Ridgewell reports, European allies hit back at claims they're not pulling their weight.
With the US president sitting on his right shoulder, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg opened proceedings with a clear message. This year's summit would focus on who is paying the bill. In NATO terms, burden sharing.
Fair burden sharing underpins everything that we do. Just a few years ago, we were cutting our defense budgets. Now we are adding billions.
Credit for that is being claimed fully by US President Donald Trump.
Because of me, they've raised about $40 billion over the last year. So I think the Secretary General likes Trump. He may be the only one, but that's okay with me.
Alliances and friendships are being tested. Trump accused Berlin of being under the control of Moscow because a new pipeline project will supply Russian gas direct to Germany. He also criticized Berlin for spending well below the NATO defense spending target of 2% of GDP. After a seemingly tense bilateral meeting, German Chancellor Angela Merkel underlined her country's commitment to NATO.
It is very important that we have these exchanges together because we are partners. We are good partners and we wish to continue to cooperate in the future.
Singling out Germany is not necessarily fair, says defense analyst Sophia Besch.
Germany's contributions to NATO go beyond just what it spends on its own defense. Germany is contributing troops as a lead nation in Lithuania and NATO's forward presence to the east.
The heated issue of defence spending looks set to overshadow other business at the two-day summit. Britain announced it would double its number of troops in Afghanistan. Canada offered to lead a NATO training mission in Iraq.
And now we have to rebuild that democracy and strengthen it. NATO is going to take a significant role in that, and Canada is going to commit 250 troops, a number of helicopters, and we're actually offering to command that mission for the first year.
Helicopters from 13 NATO member states performed a flyby over the new headquarters. NATO's leadership will be hoping for a similar sign of unity as the summit closes Thursday. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News at NATO headquarters in Brussels.
Well, pangolins are the world's most illegally trafficked animals. 8 species of the beautiful but elusive mammals can be found in Africa and Southeast Asia, but as many as 300 are poached every day, destined for markets in Vietnam and China, where the meat is considered a delicacy and their scales believed to have medicinal properties. Here's VOA's Julie Tabo.
Pangolins are shy, secretive animals. They have a coat of thick, overlapping scales, much like an armadillo, to protect themselves against predators. But demand for those scales is driving an illegal market, which is threatening their very existence.
If you can just grip the scale between your thumb and forefinger.
But now researchers in England have perfected a method of recovering the fingerprints of pangolin poachers from the animal's scales.
When we first brought it up, we brought the scales back. I loaded one up, put it into the gel scan, and when it came up, I just went, wow. Yeah, we've got a fingerprint off that, and we were thrilled.
The forensic team used the international standard for recovering crime scene evidence, gel pads, which are pressed onto scales and then scanned to reveal rich details of the person who had held them. The easy-to-use, low-tech process makes it easier to prosecute.
It might not be as perfect as it is in a laboratory or in a controlled crime scene, but you can still gather evidence, and there's still methods and materials that you can use that will quickly get that evidence, get it to a safe environment, and do the analysis there.
Project collaborators included the Zoological Society of London and the UK Border Force, who were able to supply pangolin scales banned under the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, CITES. The impact on the illegal trade in pangolins would be massive.
What it does is it gives us the ability to tie organised criminals to the pangolin scales, so that not only are we finding the pangolin scales, but we are able to investigate those that are trafficking.
Without a remedy, pangolins will become extinct.
There are places where we've seen pangolins being wiped out already, and that's just going to continue to happen. So we need to find ways to tackle the trade, tackle the demand, stop the poaching in order to ensure this species can survive in the wild.
Christy Henderson is Senior Campaign Coordinator at PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
So not only are we
killing them and using their body parts for little more than, misguided tradition or pseudoscience. But these animals are endangered, and we should be and need to be doing a lot more to protect them.
Wildlife and plant trafficking is the world's fourth biggest crime category, behind human trafficking, drugs, and firearms, with an estimated value of between $17 to $23 billion annually. Julie Tabo, VOA News.
Welcome back to Africa 54, and here's what's trending. Conservationists on Mozambique's Mount Gorongosa are encouraging farmers to grow coffee plants in the shade of hardwood trees. The mountain is under severe pressure from the rampant deforestation across Mozambique that supplies a foreign market, primarily China. Now, local farmers are being encouraged to grow coffee in the shade of hardwood trees, both to improve their own lot and to restore the forest. It's among the more complex conservation efforts in Southern Africa, a bid to convince farmers to abandon old slash-and-burn methods of farming and commit to the longer-term yield of coffee on the same plots. Well, next up, Israeli-made technology played a role in assisting rescue workers in the operation to free the Thai boys trapped in a flooded cave in the country's north. Expert divers on Sunday rescued 4 of 12 boys from the cave where they have been trapped with their soccer coach for more than 2 weeks. Radio technology developed by Maxtex Networks was quickly put into use by search and rescue teams. The company's technology uses a sophisticated algorithm to connect devices via a mobile mesh. The company claims mesh technology overcomes common challenges by continually adjusting and restructuring itself, including underground and in enclosed environments. Well, and finally, tiny, minimal, and noisy, these are not things that would usually attract people to a hotel. The Chinese hostel in Japan is making a name for itself for all of the above. The 3 rooms don't have a TV, but all have private bathrooms, showers, and a deck outside to enjoy a morning coffee. Each room can sleep up to 4 adults or families of up to 5 or 6 people if they have small children. The rooms are quite minimalistic in both design, space, and amenities, but according to the manager, even the noise of the trains has become an attraction rather than an annoyance. And that's what's trending today. Well, and that's our show for today. Now be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show Africa News Tonight at 1800 UTC, and in the morning to Daybreak Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching. From all of us in Washington, have a good night.
Welcome to English in a Minute. When you slip, you fall down. But how does something slip from your mind?
Slip one's mind.
Let's listen to Anna and Jonathan.
Look at this beautiful cake I made for the dinner party.
Oh no, is that tonight?
Yes. Didn't you make something?
No, it totally slipped my